Be welcome to Cómic Mundial, your podcast dedicated to comic, manga, animation, and other geeky stuff with the collaboration of Nakama Project Almería, the Association of Artists in the city of Almería in Spain. Hola everyone, my name is Jorge López El Decote, and we have turned back to this podcast after the program that we have, the travel that we made to Wales with our friend Joey Oliveira. We talked in this Halloween special about horror comic books of Arthur Light publisher. And after this travel to Wales, to the United Kingdom, we are going to change completely the country and also the format, the style we have, and we are going to talk about comics, in this case of manga, in Sweden. We are going to travel to the south of the country, in fact to Malmö, to meet a great artist. For me, I think that she is a great artist with a lot of experience also, and well, we are going to meet today to talk about manga in Sweden. That it's pretty interesting thing, I think, pretty interesting subject, with our new friend Natalia Batista. Good morning, Natalia. How do you do?
Hello. I'm doing good. I just need to make a disclaimer. They're repairing the outside of my house, the building I'm living in.
Okay.
So there's gonna be some disturbance, and I hope I can speak loud enough so I can overvoice the disturbance of the builders.
Well, for me, for the moment, it's okay. I can hear you perfectly, so I think that it will work finally. And well, Natalia, in September I traveled to Sweden. I went to Stockholm, to Gothenburg, to Örebro, and other cities and places with beautiful landscapes. But I couldn't visit Malmö. So it was a pity. I couldn't, but well, it was a big trip, but I couldn't reach the south of the country. But anyway, I had the occasion to know more about Swedish comics and manga. Also, I went to several comic shops, and I discovered very interesting things about manga in Sweden, and I think that you could provide us to the watchers, to our spectators, a lot of information about the context in Sweden of manga and etc. So in your case, you have a long career as an artist, as a manga artist. You have published a lot of things, a lot of several publications. Even outside Sweden. We will tell them, we will talk about it later. So Natalia, for a start, I would like to talk about something really peculiar of Malmö that is related to you, and that is a comic art school that it is in Malmö. So you studied there. So how was it to study there?
So I both studied there, and I used to be a teacher there as well.
Also,
so this school, yes, this school is the only school that has. We have had some education. The interesting thing is that Swedish educational system, especially post the high school, is for free. There is we don't charge people to go to school. Usually, you don't have to pay more than like the material fee or book fee, pay for the books or stuff like that. So that means we can have a lot of educations that people can go to. That doesn't mean they have to be able to earn their living afterwards. And comics is really hard to earn a living from.
Yeah.
But in school, there's actually when I was a student there was 2 years. There was first year and second year. And then there was also a third year that was possible only if you were an established artist and you wanted to have a year of production, and you can be a student at the school and then kind of contribute with your knowledge of the business and so on. So the main was the first and the second year. And in the school, the first year is with lessons, it's with assignments, and the assignments usually last for not longer than 4 weeks. and it's like short assignments, and you should do short comics, a lot of short comics. And during the first year, there's also a lot of like assignments and commission jobs from outside. So maybe a publisher comes there and asks the students to apply comics or send in their comics to a magazine. Or, for example, you have a company coming there and do a collaboration with the students, or asking the students to apply their work for a job or for something, and see if they can get the job. So in the end, the first year is much more versatile. It's a way of it's a time for developing your art, for experimenting, for finding and the picture you have behind you, it's that's the classroom for the first year students. So they usually sit in this classroom. Nowadays they actually have cubicles. They actually have like boxes so they can put up the pictures in front of them. So it's a little bit more like a workspace or like a studio space almost for an artist. A lot of them, they work digitally now as well, so they don't have to have so many papers. It's a very like clean spot for them. And the second year, so you apply for the second year with a project, with a specific project in mind. And the project can be, for example, I want to make a book on this topic, or for example, I would like to become a newspaper cartoon artist and just make strip comics for newspapers. So you can have like one of those or several others. There's some people who have like more, they want to do exhibitions, so they want to do a specific project together with an author, for example. So there's for example, when I applied, I went to both the first year and the second year, and this was back in 2005. So now they're banging outside. And when I applied for the second year, I applied with I wanted to make a how to draw manga. So I wanted to, back in 2006, I wanted to make a book on how to make manga in teams, how to make it as a study circle with friends or with your classmates. Sadly, this book was never published, but 10 years later, I actually got to make a similar book together with my friends in Nosebleed Studio. And we can talk more about Nosebleed Studio later. But it was actually at the comic art school back in 2006 that me and my friends, we were 5 people in the classroom that just happened to, like, as you can see in the picture, the tables, they stand together. So that means you have classmates, but you also have your like table mates, the people who are next to your table. And we just ended up in the same like table mates. We were 5 people who all liked manga. For some reason, we all ended up by a chance. We just, because you didn't get a assigned table. You just went into the classroom and picked the table. So we just ended up in the same table. And we all realized, okay, we like manga a lot. We need to start some kind of circle or studio group or something. And we decided to start Nosebleed Studio. And at this point, my little sister, which is 1 year younger than me, she was not in the school, but she and I had talked about starting a studio together. So we decided to bring in her as well. So we were 6 people who started. No, we were actually 5 people, 4 from the class and my sister. And all of us, we wanted to make manga. In the beginning, we just did like fanzines together, like copied in a copy machine, and we sold them at the conventions, and like very simple. And we also gathered some money to make our first real book together. But it was all like very much in a basic project. And then in 2011, we decided to actually make a company out of it. But we can talk more about Nosebleed Studio later.
Yeah, for sure.
But it actually started at the comic art school. So there's connection between both.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, sure. Well, what I can say about all of this is it is fantastic. It is fantastic. Related to the comic school, it is the envy of a lot of people, you know, because I have already heard about this comic art school because I seen an interview with Daria Bodonska, a Polish artist that emigrated to Malmö. And well, she studied there, and she has published a very successful graphic novel. So she told in the interview that she was in the Serious Colon school. And well, it is amazing that it is a place where you can work and you can develop your imagination and your skills at drawing. So wow, and also this relationship
Actually,
with the publishers also is so dynamic. It is so dynamic.
Actually, the area was actually so I studied there in the school between 2005 and 2007. So that was a long time ago. And in 2013, I became a teacher there. I was a teacher during their summer course before that. But then in 2013, I became a regular teacher. So I taught 1 day a week. So we were all teachers. We're all active comic artists. So we only work some days in the school. Then we keep our work with our comics as well. So we are in the business still. And I used to work 1 day a week. And she was actually one of my students, Daria.
Oh.
And she was actually doing the comic book Wage Slave, which is about in Malmö and in a lot of cities. We have a problem, I think, all over Europe with people who bring in people, like they bring people from outside of Sweden to Sweden, a lot of the times from their home countries, and then they exploit them. They take their passports, they pay very little payment, they force them to work with long hours, and it's literally a slavery, and it's wrong. It's like human trafficking, it's work trafficking. So she started working in one of these Indian restaurants in Malmö, where she noticed that she, as a non-Indian person, she got a better payment and she get to be like a servant, while the people in the kitchen was very badly paid and they worked long hours and they had a terrible life. So she started making this book about how she tried to create a union in her workspace, in her workplace. And the funny thing is that she started this comic at the comic art school while she was doing an assignment for one of our assignments in school. So I went up to her and I saw her pages and I read it and I said, "Wow, what happens next?" And she's like, "I don't know. Next week I'm going to the boss." And like she was literally inside the story. It was crazy.
Oh,
so it was
man.
all of the story was like developed. The whole book was developed while she was studying in the school as well. And that was like you said. The good thing with the school is the only cost for the school is 300 euros, which you pay in the beginning of the year, and that's for materials, for papers, and so on. The rest of the year is nothing. It costs nothing, which means for an artist that doesn't have much money and you can't invest a lot of money in this, it's a good place to start. And to be honest, if there's anyone out there looking for a comic art school, the first year is you need to know Swedish because all the lessons are in Swedish. But for the second year, there has been English-speaking students in the second year, the project year. So there is a possibility to apply for the project year where you make a book for 1 year. And you have to find, of course, somewhere to live in Sweden, in Malmö. It's not super hard and it's not super expensive. It's not like New York or anything. It's a quite small
Even
city.
I think that compared with Stockholm, for example, Stockholm is more expensive than Malmö, for example.
Very expensive. Yes, I think Malmö is far behind in prices, so it's not a worry. And there's also a lot of villages and towns around Malmö where you can live and you can commute to Malmö. So I can recommend if there's anyone out there looking for a comic art school, if you're okay with a little bit of cold weather half of the year, then I think you can apply for the second year where you can make a comic book. But that means you don't have lessons. You need to know how to make comics already. You need to apply with a project that is quite like professional.
And one question, so in this project of the second year in the school, it is supervised or there is any following of any teacher or just not teaching, but only to see how it works, how it.
You have a coach,
a coach. You have a coach.
You have your teacher that is coaching you and guiding you through the process, like with monthly meetings, checking up your schedule, seeing so you follow stuff, helping you out with contacting publishers and so on. So you're not left alone. It's not like a studio space. It's a school still, and you have your other schoolmates. You have a chance to speak to them, and you have also weekly meetings with your schoolmates and your main teacher, where you sit in a group and you all talk about your projects, and you're able to kind of bounce ideas and stuff like that.
I see, I see.
Mm.
It is so interesting, Natalia. You know, there are several comic schools in Europe, in Barcelona, in Granada, in Spain, for example, but in Naples, in Italy, for example, in Toulouse, in France. But anyway, it is so good to know about the Malmö comic school also, because it is a little far away from here. But anyway, you know, I've traveled
But it's
to
for
Sweden,
free. That's the
but it's for
thing.
free, and it's for free. It is a quality, it's a quality school also. So a school of quality. So anyway, it is so interesting. And talking about your
another artist that has
tell me.
Another artist that also has studied in the school and that has international recognition is Liv Strömquist, which is probably, when it comes to comics, the biggest export in today of a modern comic artist. Liv is she's a feminist comic artist, and she does books about. One is Einstein's Wife, which is about like the role of women in history and the women next to the big men, how the all the big men and Nixon's wife and so on is kind of pushed aside, and how they're treated in the perception of the media. And she's been published in Germany, in France, in English. So she's very well known, Liv Strömquist. And she also studied in the comic art school in Sweden, in Malmö.
I see. So there is a great variety of works published, of artists of different styles also. So well, it is pretty interesting, as you have told me. And well, returning to the subject of manga, well, you gather some of you in the same table in the school, but I was wondering, because the story of manga and anime in European and also in the United States and Latin America, but how manga and anime arrived to Europe, for example, I think that each country has their own story, because at first it arrived to France, but after that it started to arrive to other countries, to Italy, to Spain, and to Germany. But I don't know how it arrived to Sweden. So I guess that you are the first generation of Swedish manga artists. So one of the first generations of artists. So in this case, so how do you receive the influence of manga and anime when you were young? So if I think that when you were a child.
Yes, Sweden is very close culturally to Germany. So we had a lot of the German publishers, whatever they picked up, the Swedish publishers looked at as well. No, Tokyopop is not in Sweden, but we have Egmont. Egmont Media is both in Germany and in Sweden, and we have Carlsen. Carlsen is both in Germany and in Sweden. So we have a connection. They look at each other's publications, and they also sometimes co-publish or publish stuff in both languages. So we noticed that we had a wave of manga in the 80s, and that was Samurai, for example, what's the name? Lone Wolf and Cub in English. That was published in Sweden. Yeah, we had actually a little bit of Akira published, the manga. So this was quite adult stuff, or more graphic
the
stuff.
The seinen manga.
Very, very seinen manga, very dark, and another. It was not meant for kids; it was meant for older guys, very clearly, because that was the target of comics in Sweden. But in the late 1990s and the early 2000s, we had Dragon Ball come to Sweden, and that was via the German market. So Dragon Ball became big in Germany, and then the Swedish publishers tried it out, and it became a hit. So that was, and at this time we also had both Pokemon and Sailor Moon on television. So I'm calling myself part of the Sailor Moon generation. So it's the generation of the people who grew up with watching Sailor Moon. 7 o'clock in the morning before going to school, we watch Sailor Moon. So it's a big thing. But today, I mean, when I talk to the kids, like the 9-10-year-old kids, they don't know who Sailor Moon is. It's gone. It's not there anymore. Now it's other stuff. They watch more of other stuff, which I can't relate to. So back in then, and at this point, manga and anime was very to be able to find manga and anime in Sweden, you had to find them in English. Usually, you didn't find all of the volumes. You had to get them imported from America, and it was hard because we didn't have a good distribution system in Sweden yet. Today, a lot of the and what happened was it became gradually more interesting for publishers here in Sweden to publish manga. So first, Dragon Ball became a big hit. Then they released Naruto and One Piece, which also became big hits, and they could sell a lot of volumes. And they peaked around 2009, no, 2006. Around 2006, there was a lot of manga in Sweden translated to Swedish. Not only the big shonen titles, but also some shoujo. They even had three magazines. One shoujo magazine, actually Shonen Jump in Swedish. We had some of the Shonen Jump.
Yeah, I heard about it.
Swedish. Yeah, but I mean, in the end, around 2008 or 9, everything died. And one of the reasons was because the publishers in Japan said, Sweden is too small. This is too much work for too little money. Because Sweden, we're only 10 million people.
Exactly.
So that's like how many lives in like half of Tokyo. No, Tokyo is more. I don't know. It's like
I could say Tokyo that it is the same or mostly the same in Andalusia, the region of Andalusia in the south of Spain.
Whoa.
It has 8 million.
Yeah.
8 million. So
wow. Yeah. We're pretty small.
Yeah.
And so that's the reason why the Japanese said at some point they can't work with Sweden. So a lot of the contracts was actually broken from the Japanese point of view, but also what the publishers noticed in Sweden was also that a lot of the kids who grew up with watching Sailor Moon and Pokemon and reading Dragon Ball, 10 years later, if they started around 2000, around 2010, they were 20-year-old or at least teenagers. Yeah. And they knew English well enough. YouTube was big. I mean, internet was getting bigger, and scanlations, illegal English translations of the manga was getting big.
As everywhere.
It was almost impossible to survive as a publisher publishing manga in Sweden because no one bought your books. And also, we had at this point around 2010, the distribution of American volumes of manga to Sweden had become so good. So when you wanted to read Naruto, for example, why wait for volume 20 in Sweden, which would be out in 6 months, when it's already at volume 25 in America, and you can get that now? So you would never pay for the Swedish volumes because they were too late. They were not cheap enough, and like there were so many reasons why people preferred. And also one more thing, which is the most annoying thing. So my work is this one. Sword Princess Amalthea.
Sword Princess Amalthea,
yeah. This is one of this is the biggest one of my, or the longest of my projects is over 500 pages. So it's a lot of manga. And when I used to go to conventions and sell this manga at one of the conventions, which was a lot of teenagers, a Swedish convention, I was sitting and selling my manga in Swedish. And some kids came up to me, and they were Swedish kids, but they were speaking English to each other because kids here, they prefer using English because it sounds cooler. And one of the kids said, wow, this is a Swedish manga, so cool. And I'm like, yeah, you can read it. And they're like, nah, I prefer reading manga in English. But I was like, but this is your native language. You can read this. And like, no. Tell me when it's out in English, and I will read the English translation instead. That was their reasoning. Like, they prefer English so much. They think Swedish is dorky. It's bad. It's like they don't like the Swedish sound of it. And many times it's a lost in translation thing. So the Swedish translation of Naruto, for example, Naruto says "dattebayo" all the time in the Japanese version. Mm-hmm. And "dattebayo," I talked to the translator. I know the translator of the Swedish version of Naruto. He said that "dattebayo" in Japanese, it's kind of like a teen slang, kind of dorky teen slang. It's a bit like it shows that Naruto tries to be cool, but he's not cool. And in the English version, he says damn. He says damn a lot, which sounds like a really dorky kid who tries to be cool because he's always like swearing a lot. But in the Swedish version, the translator said, okay, he used some words that is connected to that we usually know that a lot of young people who are not very well spoken, they use these words. which is kind of filler words. They fill in
Yeah,
with
yeah,
three
filler
or
words.
four different words. So he put that in Naruto's dialogue, and the teenagers here, the kids here said, Naruto sounds so dorky in Swedish. It was so cool in English. Because the kids here, they don't understand that damn in English
It's
is
a
a
filler.
dorky way. If you say
It's,
damn too many, yes, it's a filler word. It's the same thing. So I mean, the Swedish kids here, they're used to English enough, but they don't understand the English, the nuances of English. So they think Naruto is cool, but he's not cool. He's a really dorky kid.
yeah,
So
exactly.
that's also one thing with, like, we don't have
Wow.
like, I think the kids here doesn't like the Swedish mangas because they're afraid that the translation will sound dorky, to
Wow.
be
Oh,
honest.
I see. Wow, that's pretty
Mm.
particular, Natalia. I mean,
Mm.
I love this kind of stories, how manga and anime arrive to each country.
Yes.
The Spanish one, the story is amazing also to know. But
Yep.
anyway, it is pretty curious.
You have
This
Saint Seiya, right?
Yeah, we had Senseiya, and we had Mazinger Z,
Yes.
and we
We never had
had
that.
Heidi, and well,
Yep.
we had a lot of things, but it arrived even sooner than in Sweden, for sure, and it arrived through France. So it arrived first to France, and after that, it arrived to Catalonia, the region next to Barcelona.
Yes.
You know Barcelona, and
Yes.
there it was translated to Catalan. It was in
Wow.
the Catalan television, in the Catalan television. So it was a really big success. For example, Doctor Slump, Kinnikuman also,
Wow.
and after that, Dragon Ball. It was a really big hit.
Wow.
And after that, it was translated into Spanish. So it was
So
it
the
was
Catalan like
done.
kind of tried it out.
Yeah, exactly. But it was translated. It was dubbed in Sevilla, and it was a mess. It didn't work. Dragon Ball didn't work at first in Spanish. So because it was only shown in Andalusia, not in the rest of the country. So several years later, I think 2 or 3 years later, it was bought by another a national TV channel, and it was the big hit in all the country. But at first, it was like that. It was really peculiar. So also, I have heard the stories of how it arrived to Brazil, to Portugal, to other American Latin countries. So it was
Yes.
really curious. So in Sweden, it is curious the fact that people don't like the Swedish translations. And
No.
it is a pity, but you as
It is.
you have, it is a really sad thing. So we have we have said that Sweden is a country with 10 millions of inhabitants, so it's a pretty small in population. So it is really difficult to develop a comic or manga industry in Swedish. It is pretty difficult. When I visited Stockholm, I visited a comic bookshop, and I saw a million of mangas, a lot of mangas in the store, so in the shop. So well, I wanted to see how was the edition in Swedish.
Yeah.
And I opened, I pick up, I don't know if it was Shaman King, I think, and when I opened it and I saw that it was in English, and I turned back, I saw that it was the Beast Media edition. So there was a lot of Beast Media, so it was the American one.
But this is a problem. This is a problem for all of literature in Sweden. That other literature as well, people prefer reading in English.
Yeah.
So in the fantasy literature, we don't have almost any translations from English to Swedish of fantasy literature, and only the kids' literature is translated. But for books above the age of like for people above the age of 15, a lot of the books don't get translated. We just sell the English copies because it's easier. There's no profit in translation, and that's a tricky part of. So for my business, for example, for my company Nosebleed, what we aim to do is we aim to publish comic artists who are not yet published in English, because we know that if we publish them and they're already well known in English, like we can't publish Shaman King, we can't publish the Japanese big titles because they're already out there. We need to find the artists or the titles that are not yet published in English, so that we can, when it arrives to Sweden and we translate it, there's only gonna be the Swedish version as an alternative for the kid, for the teenagers to read.
Yeah. Wow, it is so curious, so curious, so peculiar, and difficult at the same time. So we will talk about the how Nosebleed and yours your manga has been translated and exported to other countries, how it has been published by other publishers. So Natalia, I'm going to share with the watchers in here your manga, your works. So yeah, in here we can see them. This is the Natalia's website, and well, we are going to comment several of them. You have already shown Amalthea, Short Princess Amalthea, and we are going to share it. So it was your big work. 520 pages in total. You have done a lot of manga, but we are going to show them. But this is your opus manga, your magna. So in this case,
I have made it. I calculated that I have drawn over 1,700 manga pages since I started, and 500 of them is Amalthea. So that's almost a third of my manga production is this project specifically.
So Princess Amalthea, the story is about a water princess, and it is pretty tricky because you have changed the genre roles in here. So tell us about the story of Amalthea.
Yeah, so the story is that the background of what I wanted to do is I actually was already in contact with Tokyopop in Germany, and Tokyopop in Germany had published another book of mine that was a boys' love story, which was only one volume. And then they said, "Do you want to make something longer with us? Some other project?" Which is this one,
A Song for Release.
And it was published under the title Ein Lied für Release in Germany, which is nice because it's für Release. The song is a play on words. But in the end, I didn't want to make another boys' love story. I didn't want to get stamped like a boys' love artist. I wanted to make something new. I wanted to try action, and they said no, don't do another shonen. There's too many shonens out there, and they also said we noticed that 70% of the manga buyers are female, so do something for women. And I realized, can I make a shoujo manga that is action loaded and adventurous, and where the women is not just like being rescued, damsel into distress, right? So I wanted to make it a flip story where, and also I really like anti-heroes. I really like the characters that you hate them because they're so immoral or egoistic, and then you also start loving them because you realize that they're human. They're like all of us. We all are like egoistic sometimes, and they learn from that. They develop a new personality through the story and through experiencing things. So in this story, Amalthea is a spoiled princess, privileged girl in this world, and she has to rescue a prince in need. And the prince doesn't want to be rescued because he doesn't like being a man in this sexist society. And it's about their travel back to his mother's castle. And they find a sex chain spring, which is of course a reference to Ranma and a Half. I really like Rumiko Takahashi's work. So it was, of course, a reference to that. And also they get followed by a group of bandit broads, women, a gang of women who is very brutal and try to kidnap Ossian, the prince, all the time. So it's kind of like a comedy, satire, but also adventurous, and there's romance in it. So it's a little bit of a romantic and satirical adventure story, fantasy story.
It also reminds me to it also reminds me to Slayers. I don't know if you know Slayers.
Yes. Oh, I love Rina in verse. It's one of my favorite characters. Yes, I love it. And yes, I think Amalthea is very much based on Rina in verse as well. The like selfish, egoistical, naive impulsiveness. I love that. I love Rina in verse a lot. Yeah.
Well, it is pretty curious. Also, I have remember the Osamu Tezuka's manga, the Princess Sapphire.
Yes,
Also,
nice. Yeah.
it was pretty nice. Also,
Yeah.
and it is pretty curious, as you said, that a lot of women has been interested in comics in general because of manga, of several mangas like Rumiko Takahashi's, like Sailor Moon, like also the Clamps mangas, like Captor Sakura and other stuff. So also they also all the yaois, the boys love, etc. But and the bisoujo, and well, fantasy stories like Rin and Gaudi. And it's pretty curious that the 70% of readers are women at the same time in this case for manga. So it was pretty logic. And but at the same time, you have worked the genre stuff as a satire also. So I think that is pretty neat.
Yeah, and it worked well also because I think this helped another generation of readers, which is the parents of the kids. So for them, a lot of them thought that manga was like sexist. It was a lot of blood and violence and boobs and panties and all that stuff. And we even had it's a longer discussion. We don't have to go into it, but we had an issue in Sweden where manga was stamped as very sexist and even like child pornographic because it was so much young people who was portrayed in this way, and that made it very for a lot of people who liked manga who was underage. It was complicated to be able to convince your parents that you should be able to buy the manga books. But Sword Princess Amalthea, it was because of the theme and because of the very like satirical and gender like critical against norms. This book became easy for the public, for the librarians and for the teachers and for the parents to recommend to other people. So actually, I found out that, and this was the same thing with my first book. My first book was Meow. So if you go back to the front, you can see the Meow was actually my first title. Yeah, and that was
how nostalgic.
Yes, this is my very first manga that I made. So Amalthea was made in 2013 to 2015. Meow was made 2010, and this was when manga was really a thing that kids read. So I wanted to make something that kids could read, and also I made it in a Swedish direction, so not Japanese direction, which also I heard later from librarians that they was so much easier to recommend it to parents and to new readers, because if they didn't know how to read the Japanese direction of the manga books, they could always pick up Meow and they could have one that worked like a normal picture book. So Amalthea and Meow sold a lot because we have librarians that pushed it and put it like in front and kind of helped me promote it. I think that was the big success with both my books, was because I managed to get the librarians on my side.
I see. I'm going to repeat this a lot, but what a particular experience and context, I think, with the language, with the orientation also of lecture. So wow, it is pretty curious. And also, Natalia, it is curious to see that Nosebleed Studio also coincide with also in Spain with La Línea Gaijin that was made by the cousin that you met. It was the first manga, completely manga Spanish edition line, and you were in the same time. So it was pretty curious. And in the style of drawing also, you are a bit similar. You know, it's you have had the same reference. The cousin has had the same reference as you Ranma and Rumiko
Yes,
Takahashi's and
I think
etc.
it's a generational thing. And what happened in Europe at that time, so Nosebleed Studio, we were actually also inspired by a British studio that it's called Sweat Drop Studio.
Oh,
So, and you know, Sweat Drops is
yep,
very much of a manga thing, and
yep.
Nosebleed is also a manga thing. So it was a reference to their studio. And that was something that was happening all over Europe, was that artists was trying to like gather together in studios or in circles,
Yep.
and that way was creating manga together. Manga that was localized or nationalized. So I think that was a progress that Kosen in Spain, and I know several groups in Germany who did it, and France as well. So we're part of a generation. Absolutely, I think that's really cool.
Yeah, for sure. And you know, those in Spain, I can say those who started with the gaijin line, gaijin line,
Yeah.
were right now some of them they are huge artists. For example,
Wow.
Belen Ortega. I don't know if you know her. She published a manga, and now she has drawn Batman, for example. And
Wow. Yeah.
and she has drawn also the Millennium adaptation of comics, so of the Swedish
Wow.
novel, so in
Yeah.
France.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So and also there is also Kenny Ruiz that he published with the Kosen in this gaijin line, and right now he's drawing the Osamu Tezuka's characters with in
Wow.
a story with Atom, with Blackjack, with
Yes. Cool.
all the other characters
Mm-hmm.
of Tezuka's. So it was the start
Mm-hmm.
that gaijin line to develop a lot of things that came up later. So wow, it was amazing. But right now for you it's the same, because you have already published, as we have said, Amaltea has been published in the USA by Tokyo Pop,
Mm-hmm.
in
Yeah.
Italy, in Germany, in Czech Republic
Yeah.
also. So
Yes.
wow, you have been, well, your works have been exported to other countries. So how do you feel about this issues, this subject of being published in other countries also? How you have reached little by little to other countries?
So the thing is, sadly, there's no agents to help you out with this. You have to do everything on your own.
Mm-hmm.
So luckily, I'm very much of a network person, and I like going to conventions outside of Sweden and talking to people and getting contacts, both for my sake and also for my company, Nosebleed Studio. So I'm kind of like an agent for my company, but also for my own books. And I wish we had agents. I wish we had manga agents that could do this work for me, so I don't have to do it. But what I did was pretty much I went to, like, for example, when it comes to the Italian publisher, I had contact with some via internet, and then I went to Lucca Comics in Lucca in Italy, which is the biggest comic event in Europe. People say
Yeah.
Angoulême in France is the biggest,
Yeah.
but I actually think Lucca is bigger, and it's really cool, a really cool place. So I went there and I met the publisher. I shook hands with them. I showed them stuff, and I think that's what you need to do. You need to go out of your country and travel to publishers and show your stuff. And it's hard in the beginning, but every time you get a new publisher on board, it's much easier to get another one. So actually, there's another company in Finland as well who's published my manga as well. So it keeps on spreading. The Finnish version came out this year.
Oh.
So I don't think the manga is gonna stop spreading. It's as long as I keep publishing it with other publishers, there's gonna be another one jumping on.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And that's a good thing also with why I recommend young manga aspiring artists to not make a 5 or 10 volume series the first thing they do. Start with a 1 volume or at most 2 volumes.
Yeah, that's right.
Then you can actually get a publishing deal.
Mm-hmm.
Don't start like a One Piece project or something,
no,
or a Dragon Ball project.
For God's sake, no.
We don't need more of them, and you will not get published.
Exactly.
So my recommendation is something that is easy to publish.
Exactly. Yeah. I agree with you 100%, because we have, as a manga readers, I include myself, we have this sensation that mangas are so we read them so quickly, so we sense that it is so easy to draw them in the same way.
Yeah.
But it is not.
No.
Absolutely no. So when
No.
in our association in Nakama Project Almeria, we have already started to publish several fanzines with mangas also, and the younger artists, they dream with the fact of make a really big saga or series, and the oldest ones, we told them it's not going to work, like that. So after 10 or 15 pages, they are exhausted of drawing because they cannot afford a lot of things. So, and we have to start it with little chapters or pages. So it is like that.
Also because drawing manga is a development process. I mean, I think the best way to become a good artist is actually to make a comic, because you have to draw so many pictures on every page. You have to practice so many different angles, so many different backgrounds. You have to push yourself as an artist. So it's a very good way to develop as an artist. And that's actually something I noticed now, because I have been doing manga for a long time, and I've been doing manga for 15 years. And I feel like it's time for me to do a change. So last year, in October, I decided to become a tattoo artist instead. And since spring this year, I am a tattoo apprentice at a studio in Malmö, where I do tattoos instead. And I realized that my 15 years as a comic artist has taught me a lot about how to draw quickly, how to make a sketch quickly, and how to deal with clients and so on. So, I mean, people say, wow, you're so good at drawing as a tattoo artist. I'm like, yes, because I have 15 years of experience of drawing, and I'm drawing a lot. Like, as a manga artist, I worked 14 hours a day to make a manga book every day for a year. I mean, you have to work so much to be able to make a manga book, because it takes so much time. And I think that's also something that an artist forgets. So one example I would like to say is there is a manga called Carsifona by a Hong Kong artist. And she's really good. She's a really good artist today, but she started her Carsifona project back when she was like 18 or 16. She was really young. So the first volume of Carsifona is not as good as the 7th volume, or I think she's 5 or 7 volumes now. And she, like, it looks really good. The 5th or 6th volume is really good as a high quality manga, but the first volume is so poorly drawn. And I know the publisher, one publisher I talked to who publishes it in Europe, this publisher said that the problem is when they sell the books, they still need to publish the first volume, and they still need to show the first volume. So the readers need to be accepting the bad quality of the manga in the first volume to be able to read the final volumes. So my recommendation to young artists is don't start long projects, because you will become so much better. Keep the long projects for the future, and start with a shorter project where you can learn to draw quickly, you can learn a good style, you will develop a lot. And when you start your big project, you will already be good. Like the first volume will look good. And my recommendation always to my students when I used in the comic art school is to think of Lord of the Rings, for example, Tolkien. Tolkien did not make Lord of the Rings his first project. It was the first book. The first book was Bilbo the Hobbit. That was the first. The Hobbit was his first book. And The Hobbit is much shorter. It's a children's book. It's much easier. It's not as complex as Lord of the Rings. It's a very much of a cleaner, shorter, and simpler project. And also a project that could show the readers that, look, I can finish a story. The story it holds together. It's good characters. You want to read more from me. And the reader says, yes, give us more. So that's what I think a lot of young artists forget. They start to try to make the Lord of the Rings project, and they forget they should start with The Hobbit. That's what I should start.
Yeah, for sure. I agree completely with you. And also, but also this have been in Spain, at least, there has been a tendency from publishers to hire young cartoonists or artists to make graphic novels, big graphic novels of 100 pages or something like that, or from 70 to 100 pages, It is crazy. I think it is crazy to give the responsibility to a young artist to make a big graphic novel. So and there was in Spain there is a really good artist called Max. He's called Francesca de Villa, and he started with underground fanzines in the 70s. So and in a speech that he had in an interview, he said it is stupid to make a young artist to make graphic novels in this way, because right now I'm 60 years old, and I started to publish graphic novels when I was 40. So and because before that he published in underground fanzines, in little stories in magazines. So I don't know, it is pretty stupid, I think, and we have to be consequent with the talent and the skills that an artist has. I don't know what you think about it.
And I think this actually ties back to the comic art school, which we talked about in the beginning.
Exactly.
This is something I noticed with a lot of the students who they read they read graphic novels, they read like 200, 300 page stories in comic book, and they say, wow, I want to make this too. I have an idea myself. I'm gonna make this. And then they apply for the second year and they will be making it as a project. And they forget that if they just started making comics in the first year, they are still developing. So we noticed that what I noticed as a teacher, a lot of the artists who apply for the comic art school second year with a book project, they never finish the book within 1 year, maybe not even 2 years or 3 years. Some of them have to work like 5 years, and some don't ever get published with a book because they forgot that they were not ready for that project. And my idea, what I always tell, especially also because some of them they make the project too big. So one of the students that I was guiding, he wanted to make a manga project, and he started like, I told him about the Lord of the Rings and the Hobbit. Please make a Hobbit book. Don't make a So because he wanted to make like a 3-volume long series, and he had never made even like 100 pages. So he was like, hey, well, I want to make like 600 pages. I'm like, chill, make one 100 pages book first. Start there. And in the end, during that year, he was like a tap. I told him, like a water tap. And instead of like screwing the knobs a little bit to get a little bit of water, you turn them all and you just, everything just comes down to in the washing bin. Like this, too much information, too much creativity in one. And you have to, as an artist, be able to control your creativity and your influence and know how to direct it and how to focus it on one project and finish that project. So that's the tricky part for an artist, not to put in too many characters or put in too many side stories, or like trying to make a one-piece world with like hundreds of characters and anything. Don't try to do that. You are not Eiichiro Oda. You are never going to be Eiichiro Oda. He's an exception to the rule. Like, you have to focus your storytelling. And that's what I see with a lot of the young artists who wants to make a book in 1 year, that they forget that they are still developing. And one thing I tell them is that when I made my first book, which was a song for release, and then also this one, a song for release was 180 pages. Before I made a song for release, I had already made 200 pages, 200 or 300 pages of short stories. I had already made like 10 pages, 30 pages, 60 pages at most, like short stories. And every of the short story was finished stories. They were complete stories in 30 pages. And I had already made 200 of those pages, those short stories. So when I wanted to make a song for release, I knew I could make 200 pages.
Exactly.
Because I had already made 200 pages. Exactly. And that's my recommendation to new artists. Don't make a book of 200 pages unless you know that you have already made 200 pages in short stories, because then you know that you can make so many pages. And then you can also calculate the time, because after making so many pages, you can calculate, okay, one page takes so many days, or so many hours for me.
Mm-hmm.
So don't start for longer projects. That's the risk. And don't do graphic novels as your first project. You need to make short
for God's sake.
Yes.
And you know, when I have checked your website, I seen that you have participated in a lot of contests when you were younger, and well, and you have participated in fanzines of the school and the Nosebleed, also anthologies, and I can see here that you were absolutely determined to be a manga artist. So you have the character. So it was like a decision, your decision to be like this, your way of working as an artist, isn't it?
Yes, and for me it was like breathing. Like one time when I was doing a short Princess Amalthea, yes, my father said because we were out in a restaurant and I was getting nervous and I said, I need to go home. I need to go home and draw. And he's like, you're drawing too much. You're working too much. I'm like, no, you don't understand. Drawing for me is like breathing. If you ask me to stop draw, it's like asking me to stop breathe. I can't stop breathe. I'm gonna die. So for me, like drawing was very much like an obsession. And I've done that for 15 years. So for me today, I think that drawing has become another thing. And I think we develop as artists. I still love drawing, and I'm quite fast today compared to when I started. And that's why I also think that all artists to try to become manga artists, it's all about just drawing, and to make efficient drawing, to learn how to be efficient and to learn how to be satisfied. It doesn't have to be perfect. There is no perfect. Like perfect doesn't exist. So you have to learn how to be satisfied and learn how to efficiently or optimize your drawing process.
You know,
That's
Natalia, some of my colleagues in the Association of Nakama, they have suffered of the imposter syndrome because they are so hardworking. They are so hardworking, but they don't believe that it is enough perfect to be published. Their works. So and I have told them, no, for God's sake, you don't have to think like that because you're already good.
I think I think what you should. My motto has always been fake it till you make it. So I'm gonna keep on getting published, and when someone says no, you can't be published, you're not good enough, that's when I stop. And so far, no one has said that. Everybody has said, oh, this is really good. They really like it. Like, okay, I'm gonna continue as long as they keep publishing me.
Exactly.
And also, if they don't publish you, you can just publish yourself.
Exactly.
I mean, at this point, what we learned in Nosebleed Studio so back in 2011, when we decided to make a company out of this little group, we realized that there's a lot of things you need to learn. And something that we need to learn is how to distribute comics. Like we know how to publish it, like how to print the book and publishing it and so on, but how to distribute it to publishers, to libraries or to bookshops. And that was the big question. So for us, that was always the challenge. And what I've learned from other publishers in Europe when they publish Amalthea, it's usually the Achilles heel is usually distribution. If you don't have distribution, if you don't know how to distribute the books, it's not worth publishing. So if anyone out there is thinking of starting their own manga business, I think that what they should really do a lot of research in is the distribution in your local, your distribution in your country.
Absolutely.
So what we did in Nosebleed is that we started in 2011 as a small publisher, and we had to print all the books and send it out ourselves. They were in our wardrobes, and we had to send out every book ourselves.
Oh my God, that's insane.
We did that for 6 years. We did that, and then finally we got a distributor. And so from 2017 until now, we have grown exponentially. I think we have from 2017 to today, so 5 years, we have I think 10 doubled our income. We have 10 times more income today than we had 5 years ago, and that's all because we found a distributor that takes care of the storage. We don't have to do anything. I don't touch a book. They are in storage. Someone else takes care of that, and we get the profit. And that's like so today we are like a machine. We can like keep on like just if we find something we like it, we publish it, and we're gonna get money from it. Like it's good. It's a well-oiled machine. So today we, as you can see here, this is some of our titles. The latest ones is the top row. GG, Life is a Video Game, is from Italy. It's an Italian manga. And this is a German manga by a Swiss artist, Zarbo, the Zarbo twins, Jean and Van Zarbo. We're going to publish Van's work as well, Cold. Both of them are published in Germany. And we also have Phantom Land, which is from Finland. This one is Gigi from Italy. So we're trying right now to find artists from Europe and trying to publish European manga in Swedish, in Sweden. And we also have Nidu, which is our own artist, Lin, who is one of the co-workers and co-founders or co-owners of the Nosebleed Studio publishing house. So what we do is we are also so the whole company in Nosebleed Studio is also a artist collective. We are like a cooperative, like a worker cooperative. So all of the people who are in the company are artists themselves. They're manga artists themselves. You can't be a member if you're not a manga artist. And when you work in the company, you also take part of the profits. So there's no one who earns profits from the company unless you work with it. So that's also, and you will get paid. We don't get a big salary, but it's growing every year. We get a raise of money, pay raise. So that's nice. And we're trying to also find artists like we're looking at Spain right now. We have connections to Planeta. So we really would like to publish some of the local artists from Spain as well in Sweden. Because we really believe that in what we can do is we can show that the European manga artists as well as on the level of Japanese artists. You don't have to have a Japanese sounding name to be able to publish or to make manga. This is a French manga, Tali. By Surya is actually from Laos, but he lives in Paris now. This is also I really like
it. It was published in Ankama, I guess.
Yeah. And and I think it's published in Spain as well.
I'm not quite sure. It is published by Letra Blanca, I guess.
I think so too. Yeah.
I guess.
But we published it first.
Yeah.
We picked it up first. And also we have the How to Draw Manga book, the green one. This is our big seller. This is our top seller in our company.
That's cool.
So this one actually we published it in 2017 because we realized that it was 10 years since there was actually someone who made a How to Draw Manga book. And back in 2007 when the first one was published, it was like really poor. It was very sexy. It's like, this is how you draw a woman with big boobs. This is how you draw a man with big muscles.
In Spain happened the same. Absolutely the same.
Oh my God. Terrible. And everybody was, it's so stereotypical. So we wanted to make a How to Draw Manga book that was norm critic, where you had like different body types, different skin types, different ages, like old people. How do you draw old people? How do you draw kids? Like everybody. So this is the other one. So the first one was how to draw characters, and this one is how to do comics. This is how to actually make manga comics. So because we wanted to inspire people to make their own mangas. So in this orange one, which is how to make comics in manga style, we go through like the whole process from idea to manuscript to layouts to backgrounds and screen tones and everything. So everything except the character design, because that's the first book. So that's like you can pretty much use it to become a manga artist. And the green one is our big seller. So I think we have since 2017 we have sold I think it's almost 5,000 copies or something.
Wow,
and that's
pretty
only
nice.
us, like only us selling it.
Wow, that's pretty good. And also, well, we can see here Maltea. There is Penguin Rumble also.
Yes. Penguin Rumble is one of the newest. This is from 2018. This is we have managed to get it published in Italy as well.
Good.
And we want to get it out in Germany, but we have had troubles with the publisher, so it will come out in hopefully in and I'm gonna see if Planeta maybe wants it, because I think it's really really fun, cute story. It's made by one of our members, Joachim, and this is a story about a girl who starts working in
A zoo, no?
zoo, or like, yeah, a zoo, or like an animal shelter, and she notices that when she is in the zoo, she can talk to the animals, but not when she's outside. So there's something magical with this place, and it all takes place in Stockholm, in Sweden. And it's very much like slice of life humor, but there's also some mystery about this place.
Oh,
And very,
that's very
very cute.
nice.
Yes,
Very
I really
cute.
like it. Yeah.
And also, I've seen that there is also a Nosebleed app
Yeah.
to read the mangas also in the mobile
Hmm.
phone. So
Yeah.
you have adapted the mangas
Yeah.
in the mobile well format, let's say, because also we have this influence of the webtoons from Korea, South
Hmm.
Korea, that has blasted everything. So have you thought to adapt your mangas in this mobile one with this column of shots
Um,
of you have thought entirely to continue with the manga format
I
like
think
always?
what we prefer, or what I prefer, is the manga pages, because I really
Mm-hmm.
like manga layout,
Okay.
how to
Yeah,
lay
the
out
manga
the manga
layout.
page. Yeah, I feel I can get so inspired when I see a manga page that is layouted in a very like elaborate or experimental way, especially in shonen shoujo manga. They do that a lot. I really love that. Um, but I think the app we did is mostly because we want to be able to use the material digitally as well. And for the people who don't want to pay for paper and they would like to have a digital version, we did an app for them. And also because all of the manga books, if anyone wants to read the first chapter for free as a sneak peek, instead of us printing the first chapter, they can just go to the app. So all of the
Mm-hmm.
first chapters are in the app, and if you pay for, I think it's like €4 a month, or €40 for 1 year, you get all of the mangas
Oh.
in our all our books, everything. Like you get like almost 4,000 pages of manga,
Mm-hmm.
and our how to draw manga books, and everything is in there. So we pretty much want people to have the possibility of have it digitally if they prefer to read digitally, and if they prefer to have everything we own, and everything that we've published, so that they can enjoy everything very cheaply.
Mm-hmm.
So
And it is
that
good
was pretty much the
to
idea of manga.
yeah, and it is good to alternate the paper version, the digital version. Also, they are not fighting each
Yeah,
other; they can coexist
yeah,
together.
yeah.
So it is pretty nice to see
Hmm.
this initiative. Also, so we have the Nosebleed Studios mangas, and I'm going to show to our watchers, Natalia, that I can demonstrate that I was in Sweden and I
Yes.
discovered the Nosebleed Studio
Uh-huh.
manga. As you can see here, my hand.
Nice,
Yeah, I was in the bookshop with I saw Nidur. I can see
nice.
some
And
pages.
Nido is very fun because Nido is the artist Lynn. She used to
Yep.
be a student for me at the comic art school. So she
Oh,
was one of the
also.
students. She was one of the students that I told, don't do Lord of the Rings, do a Hobbit instead. And she tried to limit her comic, the length of her comic, but it still became very long. So she's been working with it throughout time she was in the comic art school. And then in the end of the comic art school, I said to her, do you want to be part of Nosebleed Studio and keep working with your manga? And she said yes. And now she is part of the studio. She co-owns, she works a lot with the studio. She's especially she's working with the app actually. So she is the one who the editor for the app and publishes stuff in the app. And she is also publishing her manga in the app regularly. So that's a thing we wanted to do in the app, is to have every week there's a chapter that pops up in the manga in the app. So you'll be able to read Nidu. If you don't want to wait for book two, you can always read it every week, or every month. There's a new chapter, so you can read it during the whole year, and then in the end of the year there's another book.
I see. That's really
Hmm.
nice. That's pretty nice. And also we have Penguin Rambo, as
Yeah.
we have told, Daddy.
Yes.
And well, that's all. Well, all the Nosebleed mangas that I pick up at the store, but I've seen several of them. Well, Natalia, also I was amazed to see that the Moomins were everywhere in Stockholm. Also, because I knew the Moomins because of the anime adaptation, but I couldn't find. I wanted badly a comic of the Moomins. I couldn't find it. Well, anyway, I will charge. Yeah, I will charge it in other. I don't know, by internet or somewhere. But it was a pity. But anyway, I was amazed to see how the Moomins also were everywhere. I think that it was also an influence for all your generation, I guess, in Sweden.
Well, Moomin it's a really old comic by a Finnish artist.
It's so
it's more of it's like a strip comic, like a cartoon comic.
Exactly.
From the beginning. It's like a newspaper comic. I don't remember if we had it in the newspapers when I was young. She also, Tove Jansson, the artist, she also made a lot of children's books. So I remember mostly the children's books.
Illustrated,
where there's text, illustrated text novels. And also some picture books where she did like full color picture books. So that's mostly my relationship to the Moomin is the children's books.
I see.
And of course the animation. Yeah, of course the animation.
Yeah,
the comics, the newspaper magazine cartoon comics, they are not so common in Sweden.
In fact, I think that they were published in United Kingdom. I think.
Yeah.
So they were very famous in United Kingdom. So anyway, I wanted to buy a Moomin comic, but I couldn't. So anyway, I will try next time. But my visit to Sweden was really, really nice there, and also I discovered the Nosebleed mangas and other titles of comics in Sweden. So I was really keen to. Tell me, please.
Yeah. I think if you come back to Sweden, I really think you should go to Malmö.
Yeah.
Because Malmö is only 30 minutes from Copenhagen.
Yeah.
So you can arrive in Copenhagen, you can check out the Danish comics culture, and then you can go to Malmö and visit the school and everything. And to be honest, Malmö is, even though Stockholm is the capital of Sweden, Malmö is considered the capital of comics of Sweden.
Yay!
It's the comic city. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
There's a lot more comic artists here.
Yeah.
And it's a lot because of the school, because a lot of students, they stay, they don't leave after finishing the school, they stay in the city. So there's a lot of more comic artists here. It's comics events, people doing comics here, like studios and stuff. So I think you should visit Malmö someday.
So we are invited to visit Malmö.
Yes, I think you should. Come.
Yeah, for sure.
I can guide you and show you.
Oh, that would be amazing for sure. And also here in Spain, in Almeria, we invite you also. You were in Madrid also several days, I think. So there was an exposition of women in comics or something like that. The new authors. And I also, the new women authors or something like that, it was called.
Yeah, and that was one of the other ones was Liv Strömquist. I mentioned the feminist artist. Yeah, and I was also there because I did lectures with Domestika. So I filmed with Domestika the courses. So if anyone wants to learn manga, I have 2 courses actually based on these books. So the first course is how to draw characters, and the second one is how to make comics. And I recommend, like, if anyone is like a new beginner or wants to get my perspective how to make manga, I really recommend the Domestika courses because I put everything I know and want to teach is in that course, in those courses. Yeah.
That's pretty nice. Well, if we can go to Malmö or to buy, because the manga. The manga teaching drawing teaching is in Swedish. Well, we can buy and watch the Domestika course. So it will be pretty nice.
And those are in English, so
it's in English. Yeah. So it's pretty nice. Also, there is subtitles in Spanish on other languages, so it's okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Yes. So Natalia, I was really keen to have an interview with a Swedish artist after my trip to Sweden, because I love to know more places where comics are developed, where they are drawn, because we say in the Spanish version of Cómic Mundial in here, we say that talent has no places, talent and also the hard work has no places. So there is no only the Japanese or the American or the French who are the best or the only ones who can make comics with high quality. Everyone can do it.
I agree. Yeah.
So,
and that's the motto for Nosebleed Studio as well. We want to show how European artists and manga artists is just as good as the Japanese. Yes.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. In Nakama, we say the same also, and we struggle every day for that because it's a dream, but also it is a dream that we can see with you that it can be true also. So you are an inspiration also for your hard work, for your determination, also for your talent, and also for your work for teaching others. So Natalia, I am so glad to have you here today in Cómic Mundial to have shared with you all these comics, all this information, all the story of manga in Sweden. And I hope that we will see you next time in another interview or with another Swedish artist also. And we here in Almeria, we invite you also to come here to meet us and for sharing also all the comics that we have. We are so humble in here. We are going to start developing all this stuff, but anyway, we have a lot of passion. As Spanish, we are so passionate. So anyway, I think that it will be so cool to meet in person for sure anytime, even in Sweden or in Spain. And anyway, if you want to say anything before we say goodbye, well, this is the moment. If you want to say any words.
I would like to say, thank you so much. And I really hope that a lot of the manga artists, aspiring artists out there, I'm sorry for the noise.
It's okay.
But I hope a lot of the aspiring manga artists out there is going to take the time to think about projects that are shorter. And I really hope that you're going to aim for being a manga artist. It's hard work, but it's so much fun. And we only have one life. So use it. Become what you want to become. If that's your dream, follow it. That's my final words.
Ole. Bravo. Well, well, thank you so much, Natalia, for all of this. And well, in Cómic Mundial, we will continue to meet new artists from different places, from different countries all over the world. And also we will do more programs in Spanish also, if you are interested. But in this section, Cómic Mundial Erasmus, we are going to visit more countries of Europe, or maybe even further. Who knows? Anyway, I invite you to subscribe to our channel. And well, Natalia, thank you so much. And see you next time.
Thank you. Bye.